Hello, Spookies, and welcome to Rick or Treat Horrorcast, hosted by yours ghoulie, Ricky J. Duarte. This week's guest is a freelance writer for the likes of Fangoria, Bloody Disgusting, and Scream Magazine. He's a member of Gaelica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics, and home of the annual Dorian Awards. He's also the co-host of Brain Damage Horror Trivia at Rock Bar in New York City's West Village, and a personal friend of mine. Welcome to the podcast, Justin Lockwood.
Thank you.
Heck yeah, I'm so happy to finally get you on the podcast. We've been trying to make this happen for a while now.
Yeah.
Super glad you can make it. We had your other half of horror trivia on the show just a month or so ago. Coma White was the host for the...
It was the other hen and ladder joint. Yeah.
Basket case. Case. Yeah. It was we had a lot of fun. So I'm super glad to have you here.
Oh, glad to be here.
I want to take advantage of having a fellow horror journalist on the podcast and kind of do a little gabbing about that. You were actually very encouraging to me when I was getting my start with Rue Morgue, so I want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, I didn't even know that, but cool. Yeah, you're welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember I used to blog for Geeks Out, and it was kind of like a really wonderful... in case people don't know, Geeks Out is a awesome geeky LGBTQ organization based out of New York City, and they put on the annual FlameCon, which I believe is the biggest queer Comic-Con in the world, certainly in the country. But anyway, and it was like, I don't know, it was really nice to like uplift other people's work that I like really liked, to be like, hey, you wrote a really good thing here, and like, you know, yeah, it's important. So
let's get a little bit. So you were writing for Geek Out. When did you start writing about horror specifically?
So I had always wanted to write about horror because it's like my favorite thing in the world. And you know, I grew up reading Fangoria, like I think a lot of us did. And so I had been picking up issues of the new iteration that debuted in 2018 after it was dormant for a little while. And I thought the writing in this is really fucking good. Like, and I don't know if this is sacrilegious to say, but in my opinion, it's a little bit better than the original version of the magazine, because the original version was like pretty much just like a straight, like sort of like industry publication, but for just horror, which is great, obviously. But like, I'm seeing all these like really just like well-written, well-constructed like essays about horror and like deep dives and like really interesting takes and whatnot. And so I think that I knew that the editor-in-chief, Phil Nobile Jr., was going to be at Monster Mania Con, which is a horror con that I go to kind of often. And so I like sought him out and like introduced myself. And told him like, I love what Fangoria is doing, and I think it's awesome, and you know, I would be interested in writing for them. You know, just sort of shooting my shot. And he's like, "Oh, do you have a card?" And I'm like, no, I don't." Like an idiot. So that first meeting was a little embarrassing, but I saw him like a couple other times, and then he did a signing for the magazine at Forbidden Planet in New York City, and he invited me to submit, at the time, Queer for Veer, which eventually became like a series on Shudder. It was going to be a movie, and Phil was a producer on it, and they were looking for people to submit tapes, basically, or videos, or whatever you call it, testimonials about, you know, horror that resonated with them and what it meant to them to be, you know, queer horror fans. And so I was just sort of flattered at that point that he even remembered who I was, and he was just kind of like, "Of course." And so I feel like that was sort of the point where I realized, like, okay, like there's a little bit of a rapport going on here. And I don't know how many times I pitched to him before, but I pitched him this piece about Alien, it was right when COVID had started and we had like all gone into lockdown, and Alien Day was coming up because, of course, that all started in March.
Mm-hmm.
And so 426 was on the horizon, and I was seeing a lot of parallels between the themes of Alien and like capitalism and, not caring if you're exposed to deadly organisms and what was sort of happening with the coronavirus.
Wow.
So I pitched this thing, and he went for it. And it was when I pitched it to him, it was like, I think the week of Alien Day. I think it was like the Saturday. And so I wrote this thing, and he told me after the fact, he's like, yeah, you sent it to me like, I don't know, like a day before. And I was like, really? The day before Alien Day? But he liked it, and it was in good enough shape that he
Yeah.
was able to like get it posted on the website. So I always told people that was like the one good thing that happened in 2020 for me was that I got published on Fangoria.com, and it led to some other things for me. So
That's so cool. Fangoria is absolutely a magazine that I had hidden in my mattress, like under my mattress. I would buy it at Suncoast Video at the mall, at the
ah
local mall.
yes.
Wasn't allowed to have it in the house, but boy, howdy did I. That's incredible. Fangoria is an excellent publication. What so as a horror journalist, as someone who writes horror, do you have like a preference? Do you like to write reviews? Do you like to interview? Are you more of a retrospective kind of guy? What's your passion?
I mean, I would certainly love to do more interviews. I love to do reviews, especially of new stuff because, people are forever complaining, oh, they're just not making original horror anymore. They're just making remakes and they're just making sequels. Um, and then there's all these incredible indie movies being made. I mean, I've covered Tribeca Festival a bunch of times.
Mm,
I met Bill Lustig at a screening a couple years ago, which was kind of fun.
wow.
So I've seen some really cool stuff there. I interviewed a couple filmmakers. I did a red carpet for the movie Holidays, which I don't know if you caught that, but that was like a really fun horror anthology.
Oh, I did. Yeah, where
Um,
you to the holidays had a
yeah,
yeah, I remember the Easter Bunny Jesus monster.
the Easter Bunny Jesus monster was like incredible. And
Yeah.
actually, funny story, he walked the red carpet, that performer, and I was like, okay, first of all, you gave me nightmares
Yeah.
because that was creepy as shit. Um, and we're just talking, and he's like, oh yeah, this is the kind of acting that I do. I perform in makeup and yada yada yada. And he's like, I'm going to be on this new show that's about to debut called Stranger Things, and I'm like, oh, never heard of that. It turned out the dude was the one who played the fucking Demogorgon, and I
That's
didn't even
so
realize that I was
cool.
meeting this guy that was about to, be in this seminal show. So anyway,
That's really
so
cool.
I've been super blessed. Oh, that same red carpet, Jocelyn Donahue was on that red carpet, and she was like cool as can fucking be, from House of the Devil, and she was in one of the holiday segments, and she was just like the best. She like gamely took a photo with me, like it was really nice. So
That's
anyway.
awesome. Cool.
But yeah, so I like doing that kind of stuff, but I also just really like writing, essays about just exploring themes in films. And I've done a bunch of retrospectives for Scream magazine,
Hmm.
and that's been really enjoyable. I have actually my first like true cover story for them coming out is about the whole Return of the Living Dead series. So that was really fun to write, especially to write about 1 and 3 because those are such excellent movies. So.
I love those movies so much. But that issue is not out yet. Is that correct?
It's not out in the States yet, yeah, because it's a British magazine. By the way, it's the one spelled Scream, because there's another one that's spelled differently. So the one we're talking about, just for the sake of clarity.
Great.
But I think it'll be out in the next month or so. And it
Exciting.
has the Tarman zombie right on the cover prominently. So
Appropriately.
yeah,
Appropriately.
exactly.
Well, all right. So you say that you enjoy reviewing films. I got to a point reviewing films where I don't want to tear somebody down, and I never want to be the kind of reviewer who's like going for a punchline. Like I'm going to be funny
Right,
when I make fun of this. Like that
right,
drives.
right.
I know a lot of theater critics who are like that, and it drives me fucking crazy. Right? What is your
Yeah.
approach when you review a film?
Um, I mean, I think I'm the person who tends to find something worthwhile in a lot of films. I mean, I hope
Mhm.
I'm not one of those people who like, quote unquote likes everything because that's just boring.
Right.
Um, Honestly, like when you're talking about that, like only one movie sticks out in my head that I really sort of like disliked that I ever like encountered like an indie horror flick. Because so many of them are just so interesting, and even if they don't like fully work, there's usually like just a lot of cool ideas in them.
Mm.
Um, so I think my approach is to um just kind of give you a basic gist of the movie. I don't want to give away, if there's any surprises. I want to kind of keep it spoiler free. And yeah, the actually the publication that I did the most reviewing for was Next Magazine. If people
Oh, I
remember
didn't know
that, that
that.
was like,
Yeah.
yeah, was like the gay nightlife publication in New
Yes,
York
it
City. Well, it
was.
used to be like them and H&X because they were kind of like they were like the Coke and Pepsi of like the nightlife world. Um, and then H&X folded before Next did, and yeah, they were the ones who sent me to Tribeca Festival initially. And I used to review all kinds of stuff for them, not just horror, all manner of films. And I guess that was good training because they were one or half page reviews, so you really learn to like just be like brevity is the soul of wit.
Yeah.
So I don't know how well I actually answered your question, but that's that's sort of what I remember about reviewing films.
No, you did. I think being spoiler free, I write for a website called Spoiler Free Reviews, and I got my start there. And I think that it trained me and kind of instilled in me, like, I don't want to know. If I'm reading a review of something, I will skip the 4 paragraphs of detailed plot analysis that are oftentimes
Totally.
include. Like, I don't want to I don't want to know that yet. I haven't seen it yet, So
Right.
I
Yeah,
I try to,
exactly.
like, exactly like you said, the gist is there, just like a pitch to get somebody interested, right? But no like
Yeah,
details is
absolutely.
going to take away from the viewing experience. And
Yeah.
it's I'm not going to like every movie, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to rip it apart, And
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah,
just
I
think.
don't I don't think I ever was really in the position to like rip something apart. Like I said, there is one specific film I recall that I really didn't like. The only thing I remember about it was that the publicist like sort of seemed like somebody's clingy boyfriend where he just kept writing to me and he was like, "So, do you want to interview anybody?" Like, and I'm like, "Oh, this guy's probably having a really hard time because this movie is really bad."
Oh no. I had somebody the first time I was ever attacked on Twitter, and I don't even have a Twitter account for for myself. And I think I had said something like, "No one's winning any awards for acting here." And the director came for me and was like, "Well, let's see you act then." So I sent him my reel.
Oh boy.
I sent him
Oh
my acting
dear.
reel, and I didn't hear back.
Love it. Love it.
That was
Oh
the
my
end of
god.
that. It's hard out there, I have been focusing a lot on interviews recently. They've been kind of that's just where things have headed for me, and I've actually kind of proud like
Nice. Nice.
I pride myself on how much better I've gotten at them over time. It's
Awesome.
who really inspires me is I can't think of his name. The guy who hosts Hot Ones, where celebrities eat hot wings and they
Oh,
get
right, right.
spicier and spicier. Just the fact that he can drive a conversation while they are distracted by the fire in their mouths is very impressive to me.
That's pretty hysterical, yeah.
All right. I have one more question for you about your writing. Is there a piece that you've written that you're most proud of?
Oh man. Well, gosh, I don't know if this is actually the right answer to that question. But oh no, you know what? There is. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
was going to say a milestone for me, the closest thing to sort of an award that I've had was when I got printed in Fangoria for a piece that I
Amazing.
did, and that was a really fun piece. I do like that one a lot. It's about sexuality and horror. But the piece I'm absolutely the most proud of was one that I did in collaboration with my best friend Ashley Byer. Um, and we went to college together. Like we've known each other forever. They're like my
Mm.
sibling, basically. And they're a recovering alcoholic, and so we had initially had an idea to do a piece together about recovery themes in horror, and then we
Wow.
decided that what we really wanted to focus on was The Shining and Doctor Sleep, which I think is such a hugely underrated movie. Like everybody
Yes.
should see Doctor Sleep. It's like a
Yes.
crime that like went under the radar.
Yes.
But anyway, So, they brought so much to it because of their lived experience. My experience is more concerned with, my family, because members of my family have dealt with alcoholism. And I did talk about that, but they were, I was a little honest and raw. They were very honest and raw. And talking about Twitter, like once that piece came out, like the things that people said, like I'm like tearing up a little bit because it was like just it so clearly resonated with people, and it was just really beautiful, and it was really like important, and I was just like, oh, I'm like really glad we wrote this. Like it was really cool, So anyway, that's the thing I'm most proud of.
That sounds terrific. I want to read it.
It's still on the Fangoria website. I'll send it to you. But yeah, that was definitely the one
that's
today
that's
I've
a
been
great idea.
The most proud of.
That's a really great idea for a piece. I'm in recovery. I can't wait to read that. That's terrific. Yeah. That's excellent. Yeah. Well, every episode I like to take a moment and do some recommendations of recent horror that my guests and I have consumed. So books or movies, TV, video games, comics, anything. Justin, what have you enjoyed recently?
So I decided that I would pick something that is not technically horror, but it's horror adjacent. And so I think you'll appreciate it. I think, listeners will appreciate it. It's a Swedish film called Aniara that somebody had told my boyfriend about. And it was kind of funny because they were like, this movie was really bleak, but I feel like you and Justin will appreciate it, which I think is hilarious. Like, I don't know where they got this idea exactly, but like they were kind of right. Like we really did. So it's a movie about, some unspecified future where the Earth has gotten, so ravaged by climate change that people evacuate, which feels, pretty fucking plausible.
Yeah.
And so everyone's going to colonize Mars. And so there's this ship of, X number of people, and it's supposed to be like maybe like a 6-week journey. But then they get hit by a piece of debris and it knocks them off course. And in the thing that happens, they have to eject like all their fuel. So they have no way to steer or get back on course. And so it's basically about like the sort of mental state of like all of the people, but like a few key characters in particular. And there's like a really strong, happens to be a lesbian protagonist. Just about how they deal with this like over time, and it's like really intense, but it's like really well done. And it's a sci-fi movie. Like there is like, really good visual effects and there's some action in it, but it's not action at all. It's very much like a dramatic psychological, and it was just amazing. And it was bleak. It was very, very bleak. So I would warn anybody, like if you're gonna watch Aniara, like be ready for shit to get real. But but it was really good. I mean, we really thought about it a lot afterwards. So
I mean, I love Bleak. You know me. Where did you watch it? Where is this available?
I think it was just on Netflix.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah.
Great.
So
cool. Yeah. This week, all right. So Justin, I don't know if you are familiar with this piece of art, is what I'm going to call it. Linnea Quigley's Horror Workout.
Oh, well, of course I've heard of it. Have I seen it? No.
Oh my God.
I would like to.
So I accidentally signed up for Screambox. I did the free trial and I forgot to cancel. And I'm so glad they charged me for a whole year. And I'm actually really glad. I love everything I'm seeing on Screambox.
Oh, awesome. So Screambox is associated with Bloody Disgusting.
Yeah, exactly. So. I'm scrolling around trying to find something weird and silly that I like don't have to like pay too much attention to, but I can just kind of relax and eat pizza too. And it was Linnea Quigley's Horror Workout. And
yes.
I mean, I'm a massive.
I'll definitely be checking that out.
Oh yeah, I'm a massive Linnea Quigley fan. And
she's the best.
It's literally just kind of a montage of her best scenes. There's a musical number, and it's just her working out with her girlfriends, or her working out with zombies by a pool. It's just I love it. I ordered a t-shirt of the movie that I'm going to cut the sleeves off and wear to the gym. Can't recommend it enough. Silly, over the top, dumb, titties everywhere, and a musical number,
Yeah. She a million years ago, my friend David and I, he's a regular at my horror trivia. I know you guys have met before. we used to have this really like schlocky YouTube channel like that was like, super low quality, and we didn't know what we were doing, but like whatever, like it was just fun. And she like we met her at a con, and like she recorded like a little intro for us, and she just seemed like a real one,
Yes.
like I'd always loved her and been a fan, and that left me with such a good impression.
Yeah.
So
No, she's absolutely terrific. Linnea, if you're listening, we love you, girl.
yeah, she'd be welcome to come to Brain Damage anytime. I know
Oh yeah.
Coleman and I are both huge fans. We would
Yeah.
like, we would be like Wayne and Garth, like, we're not worthy, we're not worthy.
Yeah. And selfishly, the screenplay I'm writing absolutely has a role for her.
Yes.
But all right. So, one last plug is the most recent issue of Rue Morgue, number 217, is on stands right now. I have a couple
Yes, it
pieces in it.
is.
Friends of the Pod, Monster Makeup Productions, their new film Saint Drogo is. I was afforded the opportunity to write about them and this incredible film as a one-page feature, and I'm really happy and just excited to share this movie. They're friends of the podcast, they're friends of mine in real life, and then I also,
Yay.
if you want an example of me going gently on a film that I didn't love, I have a quick little review of the film Monolith as well.
That's
And
funny because I have that issue, but I didn't know that you had something other than the Saint
yeah,
Drogo.
it's in
So
the
I will
Cinema
go
Cobb
look at that
section.
now.
Yep, it's just a few
Cool.
paragraphs, a few, like
Cool.
maybe 500 words. But anyway, we came
Nice.
here to talk about a movie that we both fucking love, and I can't wait.
Yes.
Justin, what do you say we go Rick retreating?
Yes.
Today we're talking Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night II, 1987, directed by Bruce Pittman, written by Ron Oliver, who is a gay. Ron Oliver is
He is
family.
very much a gay. I have on hand, this is actually the same Fangoria that I was in. And I thought it was so appropriate that it has Mary Lou on the cover. Great illustration by, I believe, Ghoulish Gary Pulin.
Cool.
And it's an interview with Ron Oliver.
Written by Michael Verratti, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Exactly.
so I've heard tell of this and I couldn't get my hands on it. I didn't know you were in that issue too. That's so exciting.
Yes, that's where my article about sexuality in horror was in. I think it's like the last article before it goes into Strange Bedfellows.
Ooh,
yes,
I love it.
I'm right before Barbara Crampton's column.
Great. Hey, it's a great place to be. Hello, she's
right?
following
I'll
you.
open for Barbara Crampton. Like, hello.
That's terrific. It's I've heard actually great things about that interview specifically. And can you just, all those years later, suddenly Hello, Mary Lou is on the cover of Fangoria magazine? Like that, this movie has a legacy, cool. What is your relationship to this film? When was the first time you saw it?
So it was probably early 90s, and I'm sure it was my dad rented it to show me. I don't know if he even seen Prom Night 1. He didn't particularly care about Prom Night 1. I saw that later when I became obsessed with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Sure.
But he loved this movie. And yeah, and I really liked it. I thought it was great. I'm sure like 90% of it went over my head when I was like a kid,
right?
I didn't understand any of the sexuality or any of it. Certainly, you don't get like the teen angst or any of that stuff. And now, of course, watching it, it's like, oh yeah, I lived through a lot of that. Especially because, well, it's not a Catholic school, but there's so much Catholicism in it, which is like very appropriate for me because I grew up Catholic. So
I think that I had definitely seen Prom Night 1 first, and it did not leave an impression on me, if I'm perfectly honest. And I revisited Prom Night maybe a month or so ago. It's not my favorite. It's not anywhere near my favorite. The best part is Jamie Lee Curtis's disco dance because it's so earnest and it's so serious. But the rest of the movie is,
that music is amazing.
Oh my God. But, so this film I had seen before it, I think it's hard for me to pinpoint when, because this film was hard to track down for a while. Distribution rights have been up in the air for a while. And it was only in the last few years actually easily accessible. It's on Shudder right now. That's how I watched it all this week.
That's
but anyway,
awesome.
Yeah. So cool. I, instantly fell in love with this character, Mary Lou, who should have become a staple in the horror genre. And, we'll get into why perhaps the film didn't take off. I'll just get it out of the way. This film was never intended to be a sequel to Prom Night. As you know, this was written as its
Yep.
and filmed as its own movie called The Haunting of
Yeah.
Hamilton High. And
Yep.
then
Just coincidentally, the same name as the school from Prom Night.
right. And producers got their hands on it, bought it, and decided, hey, Prom Night was a hit. This has a prom in it. Let's just slap
Yeah.
on the title Prom Night 2. And they
But
did.
it's such a great title. It's such like it's funny. Like this writer says he thinks it's a little clunky, but it works. I just think it's an amazing title because
Yeah.
it rhymes and it's just cute.
Yeah, it does rhyme. And that's what makes it. I I don't I have to wonder what this film would have done in the box office had it not been tied to Prom Night, if Prom Night 2 was not part of the title.
Yeah.
Because people go
I
in
mean,
with
it
an
might have made even
expectation.
less money.
Maybe, or
You
maybe,
know, who
because,
knows?
or
Because it's
maybe
offbeat.
it is super offbeat, very offbeat. But maybe if people went in without expecting it to be a slasher with Jamie Lee Curtis, then it might have done better.
Right.
It's hard to say. You know
Yeah.
what? I love it
Yeah.
exactly the way that it is. There are two
No,
sequels
absolutely.
after
Yeah.
this. Have you seen
Hmm.
3 and 4?
I have. I actually have I think it's rare and out of print DVD of 3 and 4. I had watched part 3 on YouTube, I think,
Mhm.
after this article came out because it talks about how, like, it's not available right now, but watch it on YouTube. And that one is much goofier. It's the same writer. Um, just has Mary Lou, but doesn't have any of the other characters. It doesn't really feel like a sequel. So
Yeah. And
I
she's
found it a little
recast, right?
Yeah, she's recast.
That's a bummer.
Which is a bummer because Lisa Schrage, if I'm saying that right,
I
was
think you
was
are.
really really great. According to my lunch meet video calendar, she just had a birthday earlier this
Oh,
month. She just
well,
turned 61.
oh my
Yeah,
God.
I
Well,
know, right?
happy birthday to Lisa Schrage.
Yep,
We miss you. You deserved a better career than what you got. She's
absolutely.
so good in this movie. Like, I want
She's really fucking good.
my
Like
only
she's
big complaint
perfect.
about this film is that there's not enough of her for a movie where
You know,
it's named after her.
you know what though? I think that might have been a strength because I feel like you get just enough of her where she's always effective
Mhm.
and like you feel her resonate throughout the movie. Like
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I have not seen 3 or 4. 3 is The Last Kiss. 4 is Deliver Us
yeah.
from Evil. I've not seen either of them. When I did Basket Case, I went ahead and rewatched the sequels to that, and it really kind of put a damper on my entire
Oh,
franchise experience. I just
right, right.
they don't do it for me. So I don't know how
Yeah.
badly I need to watch Prom Night 3 and Prom Night 4.
I think that they're worth watching and watchable. 4 is interesting because 4 is like very serious.
Oh,
2
really?
had been a little funny and offbeat. 3 was really funny and comedy like. And it also has is his name what's the name of the guy who plays Josh, the geek?
Brock.
Brock Simpson? Is that
Yeah.
it? Yeah, so he actually has a role in part 4, which I think is a fun little thing.
He's in all 4 of the movies. He's one of the 3 children in Prom Night that taunts the girl and causes her to fall out the
Oh, I think I
window.
knew that. I forgot. That's
Yes.
crazy. Oh
He's
my
in
god, that's
part
so
3, but
crazy.
and 4, I just don't know who he plays, but I don't know
Yeah,
why he's in all 4 because he plays a different character in every film, so I don't.
yeah.
But yeah, he was a child in the first Prom Night.
Oh, that's so funny.
Uh, this film is scored by the incredible Paul Zaza, who,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, scored the original Prom Night, this, The Prowler, My Bloody Valentine, Popcorn Curtains, and A Christmas Story. This man has worked. Like, this man has worked,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And my partner said something interesting last night. He was like, "This music is a little Nightmare on Elm Street like," and I'm like, "Well, that kind of makes sense
Yeah,
because it was certainly inspired by the franchise."
very much inspired
So,
by, I mean, to the point when I was revisiting this and looking at it with eyes specific to talking about on the podcast, and I was like, oh
yeah.
wow, that chalkboard sequence is straight out of Dream Warriors.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely,
um
absolutely. It's totally inspired.
and very much in the vein of the later Freddy Krueger, who was a wisecracker and one
Yep.
liner, and Mary Lou gets some of those in this movie.
Can I just quote something because I wanted to share?
Yeah.
There is a great article about this movie in my favorite zine, Drive-In Asylum. They, I don't know if you're familiar, but they have some wonderful reproductions of vintage drive-in ads for exploitation and horror. Then they have all these really fun articles. And so somebody did a commentary on Prom Night, the series, Jesse Berberick. And so I thought a couple of his things were really great. And what you were just saying about Mary Lou reminded me. He says, "Oh, how I love Mary Lou. She makes the whole film. In a lot of ways, Mary Lou is the perfect horror villain for the 80s and beyond crowd. She's intelligent, sharp, quippy, and exudes a raw, sexualized, sometimes downright sleazy persona that scares stuffed shirts but attracts the genre's core audience of teens and young adults. From the moment she confesses to a priest that she has had relations with many boys many times and loved every minute of it, Mary Lou becomes every parent's worst nightmare. And what kid doesn't want to live that life vicariously? If horror as a body genre is supposed to explore fear and sexuality in a safe space for young people, then Mary Lou is the ultimate expression of all our desires to act out and be bad." I just thought that was really well put. Like, I was like, okay, like
the end of the episode. What else can we possibly add to that?
Right? No, he did a nice job with that. It's a good piece.
Terrific. Well, let's talk a little bit about why we love her so much. And I think specifically as gay men really are oftentimes drawn to the bad girl, the villain.
Oh, totally.
And exactly as was stated from the very opening moment in the confession booth, just you want to hang out with this girl. Like, I want her to like me, but I already know she won't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. She's one of the mean girls.
Like the mean girl.
Yeah.
And again, perfectly portrayed. I guess if we are looking, so in the 80s, they had kind of this fascination with the 50s, right? If you think of Back to the Future.
Yeah. No, I forgot about that, but that commentary mentioned that too. It's very true.
Kind of in the same way that right now we have this obsession with the 80s, even though our timeline, it would be the 90s, right? If it's a 30-year timeline. But for some reason, we kind of jerk off to the 80s like it was this wonderful decade when in fact it wasn't as great as Stranger Things makes it look,
Yeah, no, it's true. And actually, that was one of the things I remember Mark Patton talking about a lot in interviews and stuff, and leading up to the making of his Scream Queen documentary, was like everybody romanticizes the 80s, but especially for someone like him who survived the AIDS epidemic, he's like, it was fucking horrible. Like, we glossed over all this bad stuff.
This film does get compared to Nightmare 2 quite frequently because of the queer undertones that are going on in it. Roman Clemente and Tyler Jensen, our mutual friends who directed Scream Queen and Nightmare on Elm Street, have actually come out and completely said that this is like the lesbian version of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And after I heard them say that, I can't get it out of my head because it's absolutely there. It's very much beat for beat, kind of almost the same story. But we get some girl on girl in that one. Maybe a little bit even more overt, I think, than A Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Well, right, because you don't ever see the boys kiss, even though they're really, really wanting to.
Yes, exactly.
In Nightmare 2, but you do see, Mary Lou and Vicky, kiss her friend Monica and everything.
If I can just list one more reason why we probably as gay men really love Mary Lou, it's because she's literally a fucking queen. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Crown, sash, everything. Queen.
Yeah. Ron Oliver in that interview compares it to RuPaul's Drag Race.
Sure. Oh, completely. Well, why don't we go ahead and get into the plot of this film?
All right. And can I just say that for folks listening to this, if you haven't seen Hello, Mary Lou, I say go watch it.
Yeah.
Be surprised and then come back to us because just enjoy it. I want you to be surprised.
Don't let us spoil it. You absolutely have to watch this before you listen to us talk about it. So we open on Hamilton High at night as Zaza's. It's a great gothic synth score playing over the opening credits. It's just really good. I love the way that the architecture in this film is shot between the Catholic Church and the high school. I think there's some really interesting juxtaposition throughout the film between those two structures, right?
Yeah.
We zoom in on an old trunk in the theater department's like costume basement or like prop closet, and it suddenly
Yep.
busts open and we get the title card, Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
It's a really fun one, like kind of animated-ish, and yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's just you instantly know what movie you're about to watch.
Yep.
We cut to a Catholic church at night, and it's rainy, and a beautiful raven-haired young woman played by Lisa Charge, this is Mary Lou, enters and makes her way to the confessional booth where a priest hears her sins. And I'm not gonna quote for quote this entire movie, but I did want to, I wrote this one down, the exact
How
quote.
could you not?
I
How could you
know.
not?
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been 3 months since my last confession. I disobeyed my parents many times. I've taken the Lord's name in vain many times. I've had sinful relations with boys at my school, many boys, many times. And the father's like, oh, these
Oh.
are serious sins. You really should, prepare for your penance. And she says, Father, there's one more thing. I loved every minute of it. And she's written in lipstick on the booth, for a good time, call Mary Lou, with her phone number, which
Yeah.
was actually the writer's phone number. He put his real number in it, Ron Oliver's number. He put it in there.
Oh,
And
that's hysterical.
yeah. But he allegedly said nobody ever called.
That's so funny.
We cut to prom night, 1957, as Little Richie's Tutti Frutti is playing.
Yep.
Mary
I was just
Lou,
gonna say that.
yeah. It was I mean, between that song and then the Hello Mary Lou song on repeat throughout, it's a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Mary Lou thanks her date, Billy Nordham, played by Steve Atkinson. He looks just like a younger Michael Ironside, who will then be the adult version of him. It's scary. For the ring, she's wearing his ring, his high school ring. And he tells her she looks beautiful. And she says, will you please go get me a glass of punch? And when he leaves, she follows another boy, Buddy Cooper, played by Robert Lewis, behind or like under the stage, and starts drinking and making out with him. And
Yep.
she uses the phrase, come on, buddy, it's a big free country. And that'll come in handy later. But what a great intro with all of the swing dancing and the period
Yeah.
costumes. It's This movie borrows a lot from some other movies that we love. Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a lot of Carrie in this movie, right?
Oh,
It's
for sure. It was obviously hugely inspired by
unavoidable.
Carrie.
Yeah, and I see that in
Um,
the not just because it's a prom, but just in some of the way that the prom is shot gives me a
yeah.
big De Palma vibe
Yeah.
for sure.
It's also they're giving us a quintessentially 50s prom, and it pays off later because there will be a
Yeah,
quintessentially 80s
80s.
prom,
Yeah.
which is fascinating for us to watch today because at the time it was like, I guess, a quintessentially modern prom, but it's
Yes.
really fun to watch something that is looking back at another time period, and then you're like watching it being like, oh, but the thing that they are now is very dated. So
Yes. Yeah. And also, I would 1,000% go to that 80s prom.
yeah,
That
of
looked really
course.
cool.
It
Light
looked
up
very fun.
corsages was really
I
cute.
mean, I mean, I mean, Vicky didn't, bitch out all the volunteers for nothing. She
No,
wanted it to look good.
she was a perfectionist getting that decorated properly. Now, Billy catches them, Mary Lou and Cooper, going at it. And this line, he says, we've been going steady for a year and you never went this far. And Cooper
Yep.
says, a year? Here, you want to shake? It's the closest you're ever going to get. Just so gross. Mary Lou leads Cooper away and Billy scowls in anger. He tells her, you came with me. And Mary Lou responds, it's not who you come with, it's who takes you home.
Which was a line in the original
In the
movie.
original movie, it's a great line. It's such a great line.
Yeah.
And she tells him to scram and she spills some punch on his white tux. So in
I
the
don't think she
bath,
spells it. I think she like throws it on
does
him.
she throw it on him?
I think so. She's been a real bitch at this point.
Being real awful to this poor guy. In the bathroom, while he's trying to clean his tux off, Billy gets his hands on a stink bomb that these hooligans are planning to prank the prom with. And Mary Lou is announced prom queen, and she approaches the stage as Billy ascends the catwalks above. And when the cape, they have like a sash and the crown and this blue sparkly cape for her to wear, but the cape won't come unfastened properly. So Mary Lou just tells her, forget the stupid cape, give me the crown. Billy drops the lit stink bomb and it lands underneath Mary Lou's dress, which then bursts into flames. And it is such a cool looking effect.
It is. It really is. Well, and I was going to say this movie is inspired by Carrie because it gives you it gives you a prom, sort of, not a massacre, but a, tragic prom event right at the beginning.
Yes, right at the beginning.
just to try to up the ante.
I heard that at the time of filming, this was the longest that like a fire stunt took place in one shoot.
Really?
I,
Oh,
I
wow.
was not able to verify. That's all that I only heard it.
That's pretty cool.
Mary Lou, I love the shot. She looks up at Billy on the catwalks. Half of her face is burned, and she's like, is she smiling? Is she scowling? Like, she just looks crazy while she's burning to
I always
death.
thought that was her look of being like, you fucking did this to me. You
You
did. Like,
son of a
she's like
bitch.
giving
Yeah.
him that, like, yeah, glare, which is like real. Like, he'll never forget that. And then you see Buddy impotently slamming his fist down over and over again on the stage. Like,
Yep.
it's so great. It's
It's
so
so
well
good.
done.
So over the top dramatic and so well shot, and just a shocking slap in the face. Welcome to this movie.
Yep, totally.
We pan away from that old trunk in the theater department, which now holds the crown, cape, and sash, and it slams shut. And we are now cut to modern day. So that whole thing served as a prologue, essentially.
Yep.
Vicky Carpenter, a lot of the characters in this film are named, their last names are the same as a lot of famous genre filmmakers.
I was just going to say that, well, the principal that almost caught them with a stink bob is Mr. Romero.
Yeah, and there's one of the teachers is Mr. Craven, the science teacher is
Yep.
Mr. Craven.
Yep. And then Monica is Monica Waters, like our hero, John
There's
Waters.
a Henenlotter in there too. There is a
Yep,
Henenlotter.
there definitely is.
It might be Kelly Henenlotter, I think.
I think so.
Vicky Carpenter, played by Wendy Lyon, who does a great fucking job in this movie, if you ask me.
Oh no,
Of the her transformation from herself to possessed self is terrific.
Yeah, she's very good.
She's having breakfast with her parents before school, and she says she'll be late getting home from school. She's going to go to the mall to get a new prom dress. Now, her mom is uber religious and very homely, and her dad.
Speaking of Carrie,
exactly,
another Carrie,
Margaret White vibes for days. Dad is kind of he's more level-headed. He loves his daughter. Yeah. He's a little bit of a pushover. The wife is very overpowering and overbearing to him in the entire movie.
Yeah, Dan was like, is he pussy whipped? Like, as we were watching it.
1000%.
Like, he's trying the best he can.
So her mother scowls her and denies her the money for the dress, telling her that your green dress that you already have will be just fine. Vicky's boyfriend, Craig, played by Louis Ferreira, arrives on a motorcycle to pick her up, and her mother disapproves. Her father does not.
There's a really great little, there's a great little bit where he's like, it's young love, remember? And she doesn't say anything and just goes, just guess not. It's such a funny movie.
It really is.
There's 1,000 little funny moments, and that's one of the reasons I love it.
A lot of these funny moments are not set up as punchlines. They're just witty. Like this is a witty, funny movie. It's not like a slapstick funny movie.
Right.
So when she climbs on the motorcycle, Craig says, "Good morning, prom queen," and we learn that she's been nominated for the title. At a diner, they talk over coffee. Vicky tells him that the sugar he's putting in his coffee is going to kill him. And he gives her a gift, and it is a gold cross necklace.
Oh,
I know, real sweet question mark.
I think he was like the original golden retriever boyfriend. Like he is just sweet as the day is long. And I feel like Louis Ferreira, who used to go by Justin Lewis, I guess was his screen name, stage name. He's so likable and good in this part. He's just very appealing.
Agreed. In science class clown / nerd Josh, played by, as we mentioned, Brock Simpson, the kid from Prom Night and all 4 of these movies, presents his potato radio to the class, which ends up not working. But I love his line, "This moment will be inserted into the annals of scientific history." And we all know how painful that can be. It's not a good line by any means. It's stupid.
But it's kind of a good line because he's like, it works for his character. Like
1000%.
It's the kind of stupid joke that he would make. Yes. Like, and he doesn't get any laughs for it either. None. So
we'll give him his laughs. Now, Vicky and her friend Monica Waters, John Waters, played by Beverly Hendry, discuss the prom and reasons why no one ever asks Monica out. And she's bitching about this as this really hunky guy tries to get her attention to like ask her out to prom. And she just says, "Get lost, asshole."
I went back and watched that scene this morning to make sure I could quote it accurately
Yeah.
because that's another huge laugh in the movie. And then she just turns back and goes, "So what? Why don't guys ask me out?" And like
Yeah.
total like doesn't know what to say, like silent face from Vicky. It's great.
Yeah. Craig stops by the principal's office. His father, Bill, is the principal. Billy from 30 years ago. So Mary Lou's
Yeah,
date, who was jilted and who accidentally killed her, is now the principal of the school.
yeah.
And he tells his dad he's not going to go to college, that he intends to take a year off and get a job, etc. And his dad is not happy about it, but he's not like, he's not going to force him to go to college, right? He's just a little bit like, uh, we'll talk about this some other time. Like,
Yeah,
it's an
he's a
interesting
much
read.
more even-handed parent than
Yes.
Vicky's mom is.
Yeah. Jess Browning, named after Todd Browning, who directed
Hmm.
Dracula and Freaks.
Yeah, yeah.
She's played by Beth Gondik, tells Vicky that she's planning to look for a dress in the old prop closet of the theater. And we learn that she has a doctor's appointment. And it's just kind of something that her mom makes her go to. This girl is so goth and so cool. This is who I would have been hanging out with in high school.
Absolutely. I kind of was hanging out with a girl like this in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, she was more of a 90s goth, but still like so cool.
With like her Susie Sue haircut and
Yeah, yeah. And it's another great performance. It's just very real and very likable and
very
like
brief. It's too brief. I want more of her.
yeah.
I want less Monica. I want more Jess.
But I feel like this is also like really deliberate because yeah, they want you to instantly really like her.
Yes, which we do. Fellow student and class bitch Kelly Hannenlotter,
Ah,
played by Terry Hawks, boasts about her prom dress, and it's the same one Elizabeth Taylor wore, and she makes sure that Vicky can hear all about it as she walks
it's
past.
also very gay because I don't know if high school girls in the 80s were really talking about, the Oscars and Elizabeth Taylor, but this one is.
No, I don't know a single straight woman who has ever cared about the Oscars as much as any gay man I've ever known has. Vicky heads to the old prop closet underneath the school, and it's this dark, nasty, scary basement. Now, this is also where Mary Lou took her date 30 years ago to have sex with him at prom, right? Not her date, the guy that she left her date for.
Right, right.
Vicky is perusing old costumes, comes across this blue sparkly number, and then this old trunk that we saw at the beginning of the film. And she pries it open with a metal sword because it's the prop
I love
closet.
how Vicky's just like, oh yeah, let me just get a scabbard and see if I can
Yep.
open this thing. Like, it's like, okay, girl.
Yeah. As soon as the trunk is pried open, the class of 57 picture in Principal Bill's office cracks over Mary Lou's head
Oh,
and
that's
over her
such a
face.
cool effect.
It
Yeah, it
is.
like literally the cracks like lead into her face with a little circle around it. It's the coolest thing.
Yep. We flash back to that fateful prom night, and he knows that there's evil afoot. He can sense it. And after school, he ends up driving past the Catholic church where a priest notices and calls him by name. But in the trunk, Vicky finds the prom queen crown and sash and cape. And as she gathers them, the trunk closes in on its own. And she shows these items to Monica and Jess in art class. There's like girls ballet dancing. Jess is sculpting a hand with a cigarette.
That's a nice little bit of texture. I like the girls ballet dance thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I feel like
yeah,
art
totally.
class, like sculpture class plus dance class might be two separate classes, but maybe not at this school.
It's just it's just the art floor of the
Yeah.
school, I guess.
She shows the items to Monica and Jess. Kelly, the bitch, tells her she's going to have to get it cleaned off if she expects her to wear it. And Jess says, "Who gives a shit?" And she storms out. Now, in the locker room, Vicky discovers Jess huddled in the corner crying. Jess tells her there's this guy she really liked, and she thought he really liked her, but he won't return her calls. And Jess tells her, I guess I've got some choices to make. Vicky says, well, if I were you, I'd forget about this guy. But as it turns out, he has left Jess something to remember him by because we find out she's pregnant.
Yeah, and that's the way she says it, and she totally like yeah, it's like so vulnerable and honest. That's a great scene. She does it really well.
It's a great delivery of it's just a scene that doesn't, in my opinion, fit the rest of this film at all.
It's sort of more serious, but I still think it works, as a character moment.
It doesn't not work because it makes it endears us even more to Jess. I want more
Yeah.
Jess. I'm most invested in her out of anybody in this movie, which
Yeah.
makes the next scene real disappointing.
Yeah.
Because that night the art teacher tells Jess to just lock up when she ends up leaving the school. She ends up trying on that blue prom cape from 30 years ago. She's actually really pulling it off with the Susie and the Banshees haircut. And
Oh, totally. If
yeah,
anybody could pull it off in this movie, it would be Jess.
yes, she starts to kind of pick off these colored gemstones from the crown, which seems to awaken Mary Lou as this bright light emits from that trunk in the costume closet.
Yeah.
The radio starts to play the song Hello, Mary Lou by Gene Pitney as a wind in the art room blows, and Jess is dragged around by the neck of the cape. First toward so this scene kind of threw me because there is a paper
Yeah.
cutter.
Totally misdirecting you.
Yes, the classroom paper cutters with the handle that you
Yeah.
crank down. In fifth grade, fourth or fifth grade, we were in art class and a little boy chopped his thumb off in front of all of us.
Oh
And I
God.
will,
That's always what I think of when I see those
yeah,
things.
I
Oh,
have a
terrifying.
vivid memory of just the trail of
Who
blood,
wouldn't?
the yeah,
Oh,
from the paper cutter to the door to get him out to the wherever hospital I assume he went to.
oh God.
Yeah, rough. So she's dragged toward that, but instead of being decapitated by it, she is then dragged up and hung by the cape from a lighting fixture where she perishes. It all happens super fast. It's a pretty cool looking sequence. I think it's pretty well
It's a
shot.
wild scene.
Wild scene.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny. Of course, the goth girl puts on the cape, right? Like this assimilation, this symbol of being like everybody else, and it kills her instantly.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. But then she is thrown out the window
Yeah.
into the ground. And so it looks like a suicide, I guess. Like if she's pregnant and upset that day, maybe they never dive into
Yeah.
why or how she actually died.
Yeah. It's just like the next day that Monica's like, Jess, she killed
Yes.
herself.
Yeah. The cape
So
refolds itself and the gemstone reattaches to the crown.
yeah, that's a fun little effect.
Now at the church, there's again interesting juxtaposition between the architecture of that and the school. We discover that the
Mm.
priest is actually Father Cooper. So Buddy Cooper being the
Yeah.
guy that Mary Lou ditched Billy for at prom. He's a priest now. And as
The
he's
ladies' man became a priest.
exactly celibate as fuck, he's never, that was probably the last time he ever had sex. As he says a prayer, a picture of Mary Lou that he has surrounded by candles falls to the ground. If a candle falls on it. And now we are at Jess's funeral. And the priest says to let her death remind us of the violence we see every day on the streets, on our television sets, and in the movies.
It's such a great, like, take that. It just cracked me up.
It is delivered with such a smart ass kind of tone, you know? People like make a couple of faces about it. It's funny. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be funny. It's funny.
No, absolutely.
Vicky takes a little stroll through the cemetery and discovers Mary Lou Maloney's grave in the cemetery.
Yep.
And she has like a spaced out reaction to it. Now, the next day, she has put Mary Lou's crown, cape, and sash in one of those display windows at the school that might have like trophies or, you know, school pictures. And Kelly, the bitch, mocks it. And Vicky just turns to her and says, "You shut your fucking mouth, bitch." And it's very much not Vicky, you know?
Oh yeah, but that's also because that's when she's like, oh, you should take a hint from Jess. The competition is dwindling. I mean, that's such a horrifically awful thing to
That's
say.
a terrible thing
So
to say.
yes, it's not Vicky, but it's also like we, of course, in the audience are like fucking loving
Yes.
it that she says it.
Yeah. Now at lunch, while Vicky is in the lunch line, the cafeteria suddenly transforms into like a haunted looking, scary environment.
Yes, it's
As
great.
yeah, a creepy lunch lady ladles food onto her plate, and there's like a
The
brooding
butch lunch lady.
greaser in the background, and Jess's head appears
Yeah.
in the soupy liquid. Vicky runs out into the hallway, which is empty, and takes a drink from the water fountain, which then turns to blood as she's drinking it.
Yeah.
The hallway is now scary and haunted looking, and a brooded
It's all it's very nightmare influenced, but awesome.
very much, very, very much. A brutish greaser says, I love you, Mary Lou, and slams her against the locker, assaulting her. But she escapes to the library, where she just busts into the library, and Kelly's standing there and just gives her like the best shitty, bitchy look possible. She's so good.
Yeah. She's like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Girl, what do you want?
At dinner, Vicky's mom gives her an acceptance letter from a college. It's already been opened.
Thanks for opening it for me.
Yeah.
That's a great moment, too.
Vicky tells her parents she's not going to go to college. And her mother tells her, oh, no, you are going to go to college. And she starts praying. And Vicky leaves the table and runs upstairs and slams her bedroom door behind her. I love this moment, Justin, so much. I wasn't expecting what happens to happen. And I had to rewind it because I was like, wait. What? So she's sitting at her vanity in her bedroom. She's painting her nails and she begins to apply lipstick. And when she looks in the mirror, it's Mary Lou's reflection in a blonde wig looking back at her. So it's the actress who plays Mary Lou, but done up to look like Vicky.
Oh, see, I never even realized that. I just thought it was Vicky with like different hair.
I
Got to go rewatch that now.
I did too the first time, and then I had to rewind
mind
it.
you, I've probably seen this movie over a dozen times.
Right.
So
no, I had to rewind it. No, it's Lisa in a blonde Vicky wig looking back at her. And then because then when we see Vicky freak out about it, it's very like it's clear that we're back to Vicky again. It's just really cool.
Right,
it could have just been
cool.
It could have just been Mary Lou with her brown hair and her normal look, but it's not. It's Mary Lou looking like Vicky.
Wow.
At herself in the mirror. It's really cool.
So wait, was this the first time you saw this movie, like in preparation for this?
No, I had seen it. It had been okay. I did watch it a couple months ago, and then again the first time I watched it maybe a decade ago.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
But
I had watched this just a couple months ago as well.
Nice.
So in gym class, Kelly beams Vicky in the head with a volleyball, knocking her into a creepy and haunted looking gymnasium. So she's knocked out again. Now the gym is creepy.
I showed this movie to David in that moment. Just the way she gets knocked out by the ball just like made him laugh so hard. Yeah. And it is really funny.
Yeah. The other girls are wearing old-timey gym uniforms, and they start approaching
her,
chanting Mary Lou, Mary Lou, and Vicky backs up into the volleyball net, which is now a giant spider's web, which I think is really cool. She wakes up and shouts, I'm not Mary Lou, and the Principal Bill, hears this, and he goes downstairs to the props closet to investigate. Now at home, Vicky's parents fuss over her fainting after school. Craig has dropped her off, but he's shooed away by Vicky's mom, who says Vicky doesn't need to see a doctor. She needs some time with the Lord. So, of course, she's taken to confession, where she confesses to
that. You know that mom is now fully in Moms for Liberty. Like that's totally what she would be doing now.
Oh, she has nothing better to worry about than what other people are up to. If she were in the Crucible, she would be whichever of the goodies was like, I saw such and such dancing naked in the forest. Like, just, that's her life.
Totally.
So she confesses to Father Cooper that she's had sinful thoughts about her boyfriend. She's disobeyed her mother, and she's having hallucinations about Jess and Mary Lou Maloney, that girl who died at my high school. And as Father Cooper tells her penance, Principal Bill is seen burning the class picture from 30 years ago in his fireplace.
Yep.
Now at home, I love this scene. Vicky lays in bed to draw while a creepy carousel-sized rocking horse watches her with red eyes. So, Justin, this was a question just last month at Horror Trivia. And can I tell you, so I was there with my new beau, right? Things were very, very new then. And he got this question right. And I think that's the moment that I knew.
Oh,
that was
so
it.
Sweet.
I was like, I know this. I've seen this. What is this fucking horse from? And he got it right. So great job.
And so it's my dad's favorite moment in the movie. That was the question, because my dad visited my trivia and I had a round in his honor about some of his favorites. And it was, his favorite moment in this movie is when the possessed, it actually happens a little bit later, but this is our first time, this scene where you meet the horse with the gross tongue licking her hand. And I think that's the best, most striking visual in the movie. I mean, it totally makes sense that that's my dad's favorite part because it's really freakish
Yeah.
and cool. It's just a really cool effect.
It was added after the fact to beef the movie up a little bit. It's a great puppet or animatronic. It's also
Absolutely.
shot well from angles that really make it look even more menacing.
Yeah,
It's striking.
definitely.
It
It's very, very
it
striking.
comes out of nowhere, but I love it, you know?
Yeah, but it fits because it's this sort of idea that there's this encroaching evil around her and everything's sinister and trying to get at her.
Sure.
So
And this symbol of innocence and youth and kind of childhood, the fact that it's now overtaken by whatever evil
yeah,
mirrors
yeah,
what's
touche.
happening to Vicky, right? So before
Yeah,
she knows it, she has drawn a halfway decent portrait of Mary Lou, I gotta say. And the
yeah, it's funny.
carousel horse starts to rock, and Vicky tells it to go away. This is her room. And suddenly she's pinned down on the bed by her bed sheets, and she's fondled from underneath them, from like her feet all the way up. And it's presumably Mary Lou's hands feeling her up. Runs to the bedroom door, but it's locked. And then a pair of hands begin to emerge from the mirror as the carousel horse's tongue starts protruding lewdly and suggestively.
That's what Daniel was doing all last
Oh
night. He
God,
just kept sticking out his tongue rudely and suggestively through the whole
that's
movie.
hysterical.
It was pretty funny.
Vicky picks up her radio and throws it at the horse, breaking the radio. Her parents rush in at that moment and they ask what's happened. Is he doing it right now?
Oh, he's doing it
Oh,
right now.
good.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, it's too bad this isn't visual because it's pretty damn
That's
funny. He's got an
hysterical.
expressive tongue.
Vicky drops the line, I dropped the radio. It broke. And
Yeah, yeah,
she gives
exactly.
the
It's very unconvincing.
best possible delivery of that line that I think any actor
Yeah,
ever could.
yeah, totally.
Vicky visits Mary Lou's grave that night and asks her what she
Yeah,
wants, and Father Cooper finds her and tells her to come with him. Vicky tells him there's something happening at her school, something to do with Mary Lou, and she snaps at him when he tries to tell her it's just her mind playing tricks. Now, in the church, Father Cooper attempts to banish Mary Lou through a ritual, repeating, "The body of Christ compels you." This is the first of many exorcist references we're going to get throughout
yeah.
this film.
They're like, you know what? We've already stolen from Carrie and Nightmare on Elm Street. Now let's go for The
But
Exorcist. Why
they
not?
flat out talk about Linda Blair, I think twice in this movie.
Yes,
So he returns to Mary Lou's grave and attempts to read a passage from his Bible, but it falls to the ground and bursts into flames. It's a cool effect.
that's also exactly a really cool
Yeah.
effect.
For a budget such as this, and I want to say it was like 1.2 million.
It cannot have been much at all. That sounds about right.
The makeup and effects are quite impressive.
Yeah, very.
Now, the next day, Father Cooper visits Principal Bill's home where they discuss Mary Lou. Bill tells him to
Yeah.
forget all about it, but Cooper warns him that Mary Lou Maloney has come back. He explains that she's been wandering purgatory, but is back for revenge. And he says she can't touch him. Like, she can't possess him because he's a priest, but she can possess Bill's body, and she will kill him. Cooper offers Bill a cross, which he declines and shoos Cooper out of his house.
Now, I just want to mention, because this is a recurring thing that was in the scene with Mary Lou and Father Cooper, and then this again. So when she snaps at him in the cemetery, she says, "It's not my mind, God damn it, it's Mary Lou Maloney." And then when Father Cooper first shows up at the house, he sees the son working on a motorcycle, and he thinks it's his dad and says, "Can you pass me a wrench? I think the goddamn, motor's broken or something." And Dan was saying, I really love this like recurring through line of like people inadvertently or like just offending the priest.
Right.
Like saying like, which is funny. It's just another one of those like little touches that are clever.
I hadn't even picked up on that. They're all using the Lord's name in vain in front of a priest.
Yeah.
Craig picks Vicky up for school and he comments that she looks awful, and honestly, she really does.
They did such a good job of making her look like shit.
Yes.
It's great.
At the diner, Vicky pours sugar into her coffee.
Uh-oh,
which
out of
is she was
character.
so anti before. Out of
I
character.
know.
She tells Craig she doesn't know what's real anymore, that she's not in control of herself. She's afraid she might hurt somebody, that she might hurt him, and she is jumpy.
Yeah.
Kelly tries to convince Josh to fix the computer voting ballots so that she will win prom queen for $100. He declines. In class, Vicky thumbs through an old yearbook and finds Mary Lou's picture in it. And I just love that everybody else's pictures are like dark and in shadow and not very great. And then hers is like an over the shoulder, like 80s mall glamour shot, very like opposite anybody else's in the yearbook.
And there was a third thing, but there's it's a funny caption too. I never noticed, but it's like her nickname is Hot Stuff, and it says ambition to live forever.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's fucking funny.
Yep.
She asks the picture, what do you want? And Kelly mocks her, and Vicky reaches across and slaps Kelly across the face, and it is so satisfying.
Very, very.
So Vicky's in detention and she
Yep.
is left alone in the classroom. She sees the words help me etch themselves backward onto the blackboard.
Yeah, seems like it was done like with animation,
Yes.
like maybe hand drawn, which is very cool in retro.
Yeah. She approaches the blackboard, and when she touches it, the classroom suddenly turns dark and spooky. And these two hands reach out and start to grab onto her, pulling her toward it. And she gets sucked into a whirlpool of swirling letters.
Yeah.
It's a cool effect. You can tell there's no denying you know exactly how they did this, right? There's a whirlpool on the floor, and then they shot downward, made it look like a classroom with a desk up on the wall, but it just looks so good because it's black water and there are letters swirling around with her in this whirlpool.
It's just so fun.
It
It's
is.
just imaginative.
I read that this was a 5-day shoot. This was an edition as well. It wasn't the original print.
Oh wow. Again, it adds so
It
much.
it cost I believe $2,000 an hour to
Wow.
get this added in and
Holy cow.
I think it's like 45 seconds long. It works because when the blackboard is then solid again, those letters that were swirling around are not, they're like strewn about haphazardly.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah,
cool
it's
little
great.
detail, you know?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
At the church, Cooper sees someone for confession in the booth, and it is Vicky. It's very reminiscent of the opening scene. She
Yeah.
says, I have hurt friends. I've given into sexual desires with my boyfriend. I don't know what's happening to me. Will you help me, Father? Yes, of course. Will you pray for me? Yes, my child. Will you fuck me? And then she quotes Mary Lou at the beginning of the movie. She says, come on, buddy. It's a big, free
Free
country.
country. Yeah.
Father Cooper then realizes it's Mary Lou too late, and she busts down the partition in the booth, and he takes a crucifix and tells her to be gone, but she laughs in his face. She tells him that there is no God and there is no heaven. And you know what pissed me off the most? No fucking wings! And then she stabs him with the crucifix.
That's the one thing for me that like that for me personally, that's the one thing that does not work at all in the movie. I just think that line is so cringe.
So cringe. It's so
It's
cringe.
so unbelievably cringe.
I like her delivery of it, but it's cringe.
Yeah. I mean, she commits to
Yes.
everything.
It's a bad line. It's just like that. It's a little bit upsetting because she's telling this priest everything that you have believed in your entire life is a lie. Like, I've been there, I've seen it, and then
Right.
she ends it with no fucking wings. Like, that's it. Whatever.
I know. It's like she may as well tell him, you know, when a bell rings, an angel does not, in fact, gain his wit. Like, oh no, too much.
So Father Coop is done for. The next day, Vicky arrives at school in an old school skirt and cardigan with her hair in a
Yeah.
ponytail. She's very 50s.
And now they're playing, what is it, Ricky Nelson's "Hello, Mary Lou."
Sure.
Another retro song. That's great.
She is wearing her gold cross necklace, which I think is a cool point to
Yep.
make after killing a priest with a crucifix. She's clearly
Mhm.
full on Mary Lou now. Mary Lou has taken over. Vicky has left the building. As the classmates are setting up for prom, Vicky's friends discuss how much she has changed. And yeah, like you said, she's being very bitchy, telling people, like, no, hang it a little more to the right, bonehead. She's
Yeah.
very just
Yeah.
meticulous, and everything at this prom has to look absolutely perfect. In science class, the teacher, Mr. Craven, happens to grab her ass, and
Yeah.
she doesn't like it. So she causes a Bunsen burner to go up and torch his junk. And Monica
Yeah.
notices this, right? And she
Yeah.
approaches Vicky in the locker room and she says, "You made that happen, right?" She kind of just calls her on her behavior, but Vicky says she's fine. And then Vicky follows her into the shower. And this is a fully nude scene
Yeah.
where apparently it was not written to be fully nude. They were going to have towels on, but at the last minute, it was decided that they should be nude. So the actress who plays Monica only agreed to it if it would not be full frontal, if it would just be from the sides and back.
Yeah.
And then the actress who plays Vicky, Wendy Lyon, said, sure, like, let's do it. And she agreed to full frontal. So we do see just fully nude Vicky walking around this locker room.
And there's something really disconcerting about it.
Yes.
Like Dan and I were talking about that last night, like these like naked girls, and it's like and there is something really super creepy about it. Like it's not like I'm a gay man and I'm like, oh no, a woman's body is
Right.
scary, but like there's just something about like the fact that she's stalking her. I think it adds to the vulnerability, and it just seems just a little bit off.
It does. Now, knowing what I know, what little I know about how movies are made, I really hope to God that these women were not pressured into doing this, like get on set and hey, take off your clothes, knowing that this was the 80s, anything's possible. The guy who wrote
True.
this like did say that it surprised him when he saw that the film finally put together that they shot this nude. I don't know what to say. I don't
Right.
know the details, but so she has followed Monica into the shower and Monica does say, I'm sorry. And then Vicky begins giving her playful little kisses on her nose and then on
I
her.
was like, okay, that's kind of
Yeah, yeah,
cute.
yeah. And then on the
Sweet. Like she
forehead.
giggles a little
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Yeah. And then she starts taking it too far. And Monica's like, what the fuck is this? And pushes her away and starts running. There's a bit of a stalking sequence. Like you said, for me,
Yeah.
the stalk goes on a little bit too long, like just a little bit too long.
Gotcha.
Because
Gotcha.
while the kill is really cool, it's not the payoff that I was wanting it to be, I think, after that long stalking sequence.
Right. Right.
Maybe if the stalk turned into a little bit more of a chase, I don't know. But so Monica
Right.
hides
Right.
in a locker, but she is found by Vicky, who just stares at the locker from outside. She mutters, a wop bop, a loo bop, a wop bam, and then the lockers implode, like crush from either side, the one that she's inside of. And this like jello-y, gross,
Yep.
goopy,
Pink fizzy
pink
blood.
fizzy blood just emerges from it. It's pretty cool, I gotta say.
Yeah. Yep. And then it's there's such a great little button on this scene where you see a now clothed Vicky come out of the bathroom, pop some gum, and there's a sign that says out of order. And Dan was like, who made the sign? It's like, don't ask questions. It's just cool.
Right, right, right. Now Vicky throws herself at Craig sexually. She grabs his dick, and I love this moment so much.
So
Don't you
funny.
know how to use this? What's wrong? You turning into a fag, Craig? Don't you want to fuck me? As she's like just going to town on him.
Yeah. Totally freaks him out.
Yeah, totally freaks him out. He does not know what to do with this woman. He throws her to the ground, and then he kneels by to check on her. She grabs him by the neck and slams him against the wall.
Yep. It's creepy.
And suddenly we see a old-timey car in the school's darkened hallway as Craig is in the back of it calling out for help. Mary Lou is like in there with him, taunting him, and Bill, Craig's father, is watching this as his head begins to bleed. He wakes up from this nightmare in his office because Vicky slash Mary Lou, should I start calling her Vicky Lou now that she's possessed?
Vicky Lou. I think we know pretty much. If you're talking about Vicky now, she's
It's
full on possessed.
Mary Lou. She
Yep.
enters and comments, "Oh, what a nice body this one is. Not as good as mine was." And I love that she climbs up on top of the desk. It's such a like power.
It is. It's terrific.
Yeah. But then she straddles him in his chair and she tells him, I could have been anything, but you wouldn't let me wear my crown. And Bill suddenly recognizes this is Mary Lou in Vicky's body. And she tells him,
Yeah.
Craig is so cool. What did he want to be?
I know, that's such a great line. It's so
Oh,
great. It's so
threatening his
camp.
child. Yeah. And then she
Yeah,
does the see you later alligator, which is what she told him when she went off with that buddy guy.
yeah,
So shitty. Vicky, in her blue sequin dress, is in her bedroom dressed for prom. She's riding her demonic rocking horse, which is
yep. And
now
this is when fully licks her
licking
hand.
her hand.
Yep.
And her father comes in and regales memories of his own prom. And oh, your mother and I thought that we were the most beautiful couple, and you'll never forget this. And as long as you live, and she gets off the horse and she says, "Hold me, daddy." And then she starts making out with her father.
Yep. Uh-oh.
And he doesn't stop her.
To be fair, I think he's pretty caught off guard. I didn't so much see it as him being creepy.
I hope not. It is it's a surprise for sure. It's also
I mean, I'm an avid fan of Amityville too, so this probably seemed tame to me.
I mean, listen, I saw Flowers in the Attic way too young. So
Oh boy.
her mother is quite surprised to walk in and sees this.
Uh, as she would be, yep.
Calls her a Jezebel and a harlot.
Harlot. Oh my god, it's so great.
Tells her she must repent her sins and pay her penance. And then she like blocks her from leaving. And she says, she's standing in front of the door and she's like, you are not leaving this house. And Vicky uses whatever evil power she has to blast her mom through the front door. And now
It's a
she's
great
on the
little
steps.
effect. Yeah.
And
Yep.
Vicky just steps over her and heads out. She's
Yep.
gone. Bill wakes Craig up in his bed, who tells him he's got to go find Vicky. But Bill tells him he started this and he knocks his son out cold. He punches his son in the face.
That's a great little moment. Like, well, he hits him in the back of his head with the shoe because the son goes, "Where are my shoes?" And he goes, "Right here."
Okay.
Bam.
All right.
Like, very funny.
Yeah, it's super unexpected because he's such an even-tempered person with his son, and so then to see him knock his son out, and he does this because he doesn't want his son to get hurt, right? He has to go take care of Mary Lou.
Yeah,
I think it's a cool moment. I think that really worked for me. So he digs up Mary Lou's grave, and he actually finds Father Cooper's body inside with the crucifix he was stabbed with shoved down his throat.
Wait, I'm sorry, I have to stop you there because he says, "You son of a bitch," or something like that, and he grabs Father Cooper's body and he gives him this big hug and holds his head to his chest. So I just thought we should talk about that because we've been talking about this movie as a queer movie. Like, what's that all about? Because that's just an interesting little moment.
It's tender. No, that's a great point. That's a really great point.
I don't know. I just was like, huh.
They have
I've noticed that for a few years now.
They have this shared trauma, right? Of that night. I think they both feel that they played a part. They both had feelings for her. And so maybe those feelings transfer,
Yeah. I could see somebody talking about that if they were talking about queer themes in this movie. So
that's a great point. And it's a surprisingly delicate moment in an indelicate sequence.
Right. I mean, again, like it's kind of like the whole thing with Jess. You have this like really emotionally raw moment about like a woman dealing with an unplanned pregnancy in this like camp horror movie. Like it's just interesting.
Well, and now that I think about it, he's also got this phallic crucifix shoved down his throat as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed these things. What can I say?
Yeah. Worth noting.
So Bill ends up grabbing a gun and Mary Lou's crown, and he is headed to prom. Craig comes to, and he calls Vicky's house where the answering machine has been changed. It is now.
Oh, it's so great.
Hi, Mary Lou speaking. Sorry, I can't come to the phone right now, but I'm busy at the prom. Places to go, people to kill. Don't bother leaving a message. Vicky doesn't live here anymore. It's so good. Like she decided to re-record the voicemail before she went to prom.
Yeah, like you do.
Like you do. Probably thought of that when she was making the bathroom out of order sign as well.
Yeah, exactly.
At the prom, the kids are dancing to 80s music, and it is exactly like you said, a very modern 1987 take on what prom would look like. And it's so cool to see because everything's neon lights and bright colors, and there's graffiti, and I love it. I love it so much. So Kelly the bitchy girl is dancing with her date, and he's like trying to go in for a kiss. He's drunk. And she says the line, "I spent $64 on my hair today. If you mess it up, I'll kill you."
He has a pretty good line too, because she goes, you have a drinking problem, and he goes, I drink, I get drunk, so what's the problem? It's just so funny.
So dumb. This is so good. So now, thinking that he has been jilted by Monica, because they had this cute little, she and Josh had this cute little,
Yeah,
well, what if we went to prom together? Maybe we would
that's
kiss. It's a little
right.
saccharine, but it's cute. He
Yep.
decides to change. He doesn't realize that she's been killed. Josh decides to change the computerized prom queen vote for Kelly, who begins blowing him in exchange for the favor as he's doing it.
Yep.
When she goes and kisses her date afterwards, her date says, "Hey, you got any more of those mints? Your breath smells great." And I can just picture every 1987 straight man in that audience going, "No, bro, gross. She's got dick breath."
Yep.
As Josh
Totally.
changes the winner from Vicky to Kelly, Vicky causes an electrical surge to kill him. The screen flashes wrong, dead wrong.
Dead wrong. Now I'm cracking up because I was watching this last night, and Daniel's like, don't think that's how computers work. And it was especially funny because he's like a computer expert.
Right.
He's like in IT. And he's like, I don't think that's how electricity works. It's like the lightning starts to
Yeah.
like flash onto Josh's face. And he's like, I don't think that's how faces work.
It does. The effect looks better than a lot of like fake electricity from that era, I think. But yeah,
Yeah.
she touches a light switch in another room to cause this to happen.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Oh, and I should say before I forget, he did one of the Linda Blair lines because there's an earlier scene where him and Monica and Craig are all talking about like what's up with Vicky, and he says maybe she's possessed, and he like misquotes the movie like your father sews socks in hell,
Yeah.
and then he says Linda Blairsville.
Linda Blairsville, which is a great drag name.
Right? Totally. I'm pretty sure she's gonna open for Coma in a couple weeks. It's gonna be nice.
Great. I'll be there. So Vicky is announced prom queen. And then someone turns to Kelly and says, "Hey, Kelly, how'd you blow it?" So this person is the screenwriter.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. He's like, "Oh, I'm giving myself that line,"
Yeah.
because he was on set. He was where they were shooting it. He talked about that in the interview.
Craig arrives at the school and he starts running toward the gymnasium. And as Vicky accepts her win, Bill is above in the catwalks and he shoots her through the chest. Vicky collapses dead as Craig finally makes it to the stage. He crawls up to the stage, and then Vicky begins to convulse and scream as a demonic looking hand reaches out of her chest. This moment is so out of control. The hand reaches out of
Yep.
her chest, chokes Greg, and tosses him aside. And as Vicky is screaming, a burnt to a crisp Mary Lou creature crawls out of her torso.
Yep.
And then utilizes her powers to prevent anyone from escaping. This is Carrie to the max.
Oh, totally.
Sparks are flying. People are being trampled. Kelly is impaled by a neon lightning bolt, which I just recently rewatched Phantom of the Paradise, and that's how Beef gets killed in that movie, a neon lightning bolt.
Oh, nice.
It's very Carrie. Very, very Carrie.
And as much as Kelly was such a bitch, it's kind of like a last poor villain, because what an awful way to it's like first she's reduced to like blowing this guy to get prom queen,
Yeah.
then she doesn't get prom queen,
Yeah.
and then she's murdered.
Yeah. Just a real spiral. Worse and worse and worse. So as this is going on, Mary Lou begins to become beautiful again, right? The makeup
Yep.
transformate, like every scene,
Slowly but surely.
every cut is just less burned, and it's pretty cool. By the time we see her kind of finish transforming, she's got like a burn mark on her arm, just enough to still look, quote, evil, but
Right.
gorgeous again.
Yeah, exactly.
Craig attacks her and she chases him down to the basement in the props closet. And I love this shot where the top of the stairs, there's the bright white light, and she
Yeah.
steps in front of this light. And then suddenly she appears right in front of the camera hissing. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Big jump scare.
Great jump
Yeah,
scare.
totally.
Very earned for sure. A chase ensues. Craig discovers Josh's body inside of a prop sarcophagus, which reanimates and tells him he's in deep shit. So he closes the lid and he hears Vicky on the other side of a locked door. And he lets her in and she embraces him. But it's a trick and it's Mary Lou. And her trunk opens and emits a bright light that starts to suck him into it. Very poltergeist for me. Very like go into the light.
Yep.
Mary Lou says, "See you later, alligator."
And her voice is all like distorted
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're doing all these like vocal effects now.
And this bright white light just looks great on her. It's a great light for her.
Oh, absolutely.
Just before he's lost forever, Bill enters holding the crown. And
Yep.
she looks at the crown and he puts it on Mary Lou's head and they kiss. And then suddenly we see her grave in the cemetery explode. And we flash back to young Bill and Mary Lou, and they're dancing at the prom after she's been crowned.
The dance they never got.
It's the happy ending that they never had.
And I looked it up. It's another, I thought, great piece of vintage music they used, which is Queen of the Senior Prom by the Mills Brothers.
By those Mills Brothers, man. Could they ever write a bop? Suddenly, the trunk slams shut and we hear Vicky's voice from within, and Craig opens it and he pulls a soaking wet Vicky out. Why is she so slimy?
That's very poltergeist.
Yes.
It looks like the poltergeist goop.
Yes, it absolutely does. He asks her if she likes sugar in her coffee and she says, "No, that stuff will kill you."
Oh, it's so hilarious. It's so corny, but it's also like it just works.
It's cute.
Because it's like,
yeah,
like that's how he knows that it's really her.
When they leave the school, there are cops all over the place outside. Bill puts Craig and Vicky into the back of a car and he turns on the radio and Hello Mary Lou is playing.
Uh-oh.
I love this so much. He says, "Hey kids, they're playing our song," and his eyes turn blue like Mary Lou's eyes.
And he delivers it all fun and sinister.
So
too,
good. You know? Michael Ironside is great in everything. The windows roll up and the car locks itself, and Bill looks into the camera and he says, "Let's cruise." As Vicky screams. The car, license plate Mary Lou 2, drives away. End of film.
Yep. What a picture.
It's a very reminiscent of like maybe Christine mixed with the end of Nightmare on Elm Street 1, you know?
Yep. Yeah, a little bit. Except if that ending actually made any sense at all.
Even a scrap.
And this one it does.
This one it totally does. She has possessed Bill now instead.
Yeah.
As was foretold by Father Cooper, right?
That's right. Yeah. I love a good bit of foreshadowing.
Justin, on Rick or Treat Horrorcast, we have a rating system. A movie is either a trick, which means it's okay. It's a treat, which means you love it, or it is a smell my feet, which means it sucks. Give it to me.
Obviously, I'm going to say treat. I love this movie. I mean, I probably watch it like once a year, so definitely a treat for me.
Yeah, this is definitely one to add to a heavy rotation. It's a treat for me as well. It's imperfect in the best ways possible. I wouldn't want this movie to be super fine-tuned. I love that you can see its flaws because it knows what movie it is, and it's not trying to be anything that it's not. And yet, I think because of that kind of approach, it is more than I think it thought it was going to be. Does that make any sense?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it was interesting thinking about it now. This makes sense, too. When I was rereading this interview, Ron Oliver was saying that he said he thought the director, Bruce Pittman, was really good, but maybe not quite the right director for it. And that I'm assuming you read some of this because you were talking about things that were added later. They went and shot new stuff for it. Mm-hmm. They cut the movie down significantly to about 66 minutes, and then they decided Ron Oliver wrote new pages, and then I don't know if the original director was involved at all with the new shoots that they did, but they shot this like added stuff. So that probably explains why like maybe some of it seems like a little disjointed or what. I mean, disjointed seems too harsh, but maybe why like there's just different things going on. I still think it completely works, but they definitely had to kind of go in at a point when it really wasn't working and sort of beef it up and like make it work.
Sure.
So, and I always find that fascinating. I mean, that's interesting to hear about any movie in general because I think filmmaking is interesting, but especially a movie that I think works like really well. Like The Fog is like, you know, you can see on the
You got the poster.
Zoom that we're having that I have the poster behind me. That movie like totally had to be reshot, rescored. All these things had to be changed about it because I guess it just was not working at all.
Yeah.
And it turned into a total classic.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they made it work.
Totally made it work. I just think it's a fun movie. It's better than the original Prom Night. They're not even related in a little like at all, except by title. And
yeah,
I will rewatch Mary Lou a million times. I might watch Prom Night once a decade, maybe. You know,
yeah.
it's kind of like once you've seen it,
Totally.
I can watch the dance sequence on YouTube anytime I want. That's all I really need from it. Well,
right.
And that there is that great chase sequence as well.
Where there is a cool chase.
There is a cool chase sequence, but anyway, hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night II. Justin, I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast. I'm so glad we finally got to make this work, and you picked like the perfect movie for us to talk about. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for letting me talk about it.
Of course.
This is a super fun one.
Where can my listeners stalk you?
They can stalk me. So I'm at Hey Lockwood on both Twitter, or as people who were you know, are wanted for questioning regarding January 6th might refer to it, X, and also on Instagram. And, you know, that's where I share a lot of my writing and also where I post about upcoming trivia nights. If you are in New York City and you want to do some horror trivia and see some really good drag from my co-host, Kalma White, you should come check out Brain Damage. It's once a month on Wednesday at Rock Bar on Christopher Street. And we just put so much love into it and have so much fun. And we have some really wonderful sponsors. We always try to feature a lot of like independent artists. We love to feature queer artists, you know, and it's just a celebration of horror and queer horror. Yeah. So those are the best places to find me.
It's a great time, and I can't recommend it enough. You have curated such a great community of like queer horror fans and ally horror fans, and just a little bit of everybody shows up and we all have a great time. So thank you for providing us with a place to do that.
I mean, I feel blessed because just cool people have shown up and I've been like, oh, like you're fun. What's your story? Like, please come back. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, but we do come back because you and Koma throw such a great party and you make us feel so welcome. So thank you.
We try.
Yeah, of course. Well, and listeners, you can follow the podcast at Rick or Treat Pod on all social media platforms and check out the YouTube page, Rick or Treat Horrorcast. And that's all we got. That's the show. We will see y'all later, spookies.
Bye.
Thanks for coming Rick or Treating. It'd be a real scream if you take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the show on whatever platform you're listening on. The show's spooky intro and outro music is a cover of Camille Saint-Saëns's Danse Macabre with orchestrations composed and performed by Lestat von Monlicht. My website, rickortreat.com, is designed and maintained by Evelyn DeVere. The show's social media content is created by my evil minion and social media manager, Stanley Martin. The Rick or Treat logo was designed by Philip Romano. Contact information and links to these artists can be found in the episode description. Check them out, they're frighteningly talented. Rick or Treat Horrorcast is independently produced by me, Ricky J. Duarte of Rick or Treat Productions. If you like what you heard, tell a friend. If you didn't, well, they're coming to get you, listener.